everyone. Welcome to this week's Fireside Creators. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Sherry Pallas. For this week's show, we are chatting with Lenny Duncan about their new book, Psalms of My People. Please remember to keep all comments and questions related to the show topic and that this is a safe space. Thank you all for joining us, and I'm looking forward to all of your comments and questions. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, please grant StreamYard access so we can see your name when you have a comment or a question. I want to give a huge shout out to our top sponsors, Ruth, Kirsten, Michelle, Ray, and Heidi. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate your support. If you would consider supporting me, it is Giving Tuesday. You can go to my website, sherrypallas.com. There you will find literally dozens of ways to help. Thank you in advance, and thank you for welcoming us into your home and joining the conversation. Okay, let's meet our guest and get smarter. Lenny Duncan is a writer, speaker, scholar, and media producer working at the forefront of racial justice in America. Lenny is the author of Dear Church, United State of Grace, and Dear Revolutionaries, and co-creator of the podcast Blackberry Jams with PRX. A historical and cultural studies of religion and PhD student, Lenny is currently investigating the theft of African spiritual thought by white American esotericism. Let's welcome Lenny. Hello, dear.
Hi, how are you, Sherry? How is
I am well. It is so good to see you again.
It's really good to be seen. Thank you for having me on the show. It's another beautiful day here in San Diego, like we were talking about.
Yes, we are both on the California coast enjoying the blue skies.
It is beautiful out today. It's perfect, like it is every day. So,
yes.
I think that's part of the trap here. So,
exactly. The weather is phenomenal here.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Sorry.
So I just want to talk about this new masterpiece that you have. When I first saw the title and everything, I thought it was kind of like a Hamilton thing, where he put the rap to that, but it's not. You're actually quoting rappers and all of that and using it as a spiritual source. I thought that was cool as shit.
Yeah. So part of the idea of Psalms of My People, and I was thinking about what story to tell, because we've talked about this before on your show, right? Like I am to the core of my being anti thought leader industrial complex. Like, let me churn out some BS. Like, let me give you 10 steps to revolution. Here's a quick way to understand Black culture in 5 easy chapters. We do a disservice not only to the culture or to liberation work, but to ourselves. And so I was really spending some time this morning, what story will I tell? And so Psalms of My People actually came to me in the middle of the uprisings. And
nice.
A funny story, I was, I was marching a lot. People were very concerned for my mental health. And the day that I put together the chapter titles and the songs I would use, my friends thought I was losing it. I was sitting against a wall with a bunch of sticky notes, and I hadn't slept in a couple days because I had been fighting police and fascists and or at least making sure that they didn't fight, you know what I mean? And being in solidarity with folks and had spent kind of weeks doing that. And it's just funny, this is the idea that came to me that day. And for me as an artist, I love that my piece of art is birthed out an idea that was so bizarre my friends thought I had a breakdown.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So
Totally. I'm
Right?
the same
And
way.
have it in
I
my
mean,
hand, right?
I get that. I am an emotional writer.
Right.
So if I'm really happy and things are going well, I'm not writing.
Right.
If I'm
Right.
on
And
fire
so
and I'm pissed off, I'm throwing stuff out like, come on, let's go.
right. And so, like, here I am. We're in the middle of the uprisings. I could be writing pieces. I could be pitching op-eds. I could be giving these real-time reports. And here I am thinking about this idea of, and, as a history student now, what sort of records do we leave behind? In what ways do we tell stories? And how does that shape our future, our descendants? But not only that, how does it shape the here and now and the way we look at our ancestors? And Walter
Wow, yeah.
Benjamin, Walter Benjamin was a philosopher and a thinker and a literary critic in Germany and Jewish. During the rise of fascism, he talked about how we're endowed with this weak messianic power because our coming was expected by our ancestors before us, and they had this hope for us. And so,
Interesting.
right, so we're endowed, and it's like our job to look back at history with that weak messianic power, with a different eye, so we can sort of, and this is me now, sort of, in my opinion, change the conditions on the ground for them. And so, Psalms of My Peoples birthed out of like this idea of how can I capture a moment in Black culture, and a particular moment, and how do I take the poetry, or the art of that time, and give it the same treatment I would give sacred scripture if I wrote poetry about it, or if I wrote a sermon about it, or if I broke down where the song was from and its importance to the time. And so that's sort of where it was birthed from. And then I started having a conversation with James Baldwin, Uncle Jimmy, and his piece, A Struggle for the Artist. And so if you let me, in a bit, I'd love to read some of the intro and then read one of the poems to you to kind of
Definitely.
show you what I mean. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, word. So this is from chapter 1. I'll read a little bit of it, and then I'll stop if there's any questions, or if you have any questions, okay. And then if you want, maybe we'll have time for a poem.
Awesome.
The poems are long, so one of the things I want to
let me stop you. We have a pop in.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Right. Sorry, audience, I didn't prepare you for this because I was just hoping. But welcome, Anna, my beautiful producer and partner in the show. I am so
sorry, Lenny. I am so sorry, so sorry.
No need to apologize
for being late.
Thank
you for letting me in. I'm fangirling. I'm so fangirling. My book is coming in January, and I just I screamed when.
Are you January 9th?
I am January 9th.
Same book day. Born on the same day.
Yeah. Yes. So
awesome.
I'm there.
Anna, he was just going to read us part of the book.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Oh my God, I needed this. Okay.
So this is from chapter 1, and a psalm of my people. This is a time when something awful is happening to a civilization, when it ceases to produce its poet, and what is even more crucial, when it ceases in any way whatever to believe in the report that only poets can make. With these words, Black queer maestro James Baldwin proposed in this famous talk, The Struggle for the Artist's Integrity, the idea that only poets are the people in any society, in fact, in the history of the world, who know the truth about us, who can tell you what it was like to be alive hundreds or thousands of years ago. He starts like this: I'm not really interested in talking to you as an artist. It seems to me that the artist's struggle for his integrity must be considered as a kind of metaphor for the struggle, which is universal and daily, of all human beings on the face of this globe to get to become human beings. It's not your fault, it's not my fault that I write. I would never come before you in the position of a complainant for doing something that I must do. What we might get at this evening, if we're lucky, is what the importance of this effort is. However arrogant this may sound, I want to suggest two propositions. The first one is the poets, by which I mean all artists, are finally the only people who know the truth about us. Soldiers don't, statesmen don't, priests don't, union leaders don't, only the poets. That's my first proposition. We know only about the Oedipus complex, not because of Freud, but because of a poet who lived in Greece thousands of years ago. And what he said then about what it was like to be alive is still true, in spite of the fact that now we can get to Greece in something like 5 hours, and then it would have taken I don't know how long of a time. That's where Jimmy ends. What is truth?
I love James Baldwin.
Oh, man.
Love
Talk
James
about
Baldwin.
nailing it, right? Every time.
Yeah.
Getting to the heart of the matter, no matter how uncomfortable. Yeah. But
and strong enough to do so. I mean, his boldness of the time and the need that he had to speak out when there was no voice for him.
Yeah.
When there was just degradation because of his skin color, and he rose above that through his education and his thoughtful words. You're a modern day Jimmy.
No, I don't think so. I could never be as classy as Uncle Jimmy. But thank you for the compliment. You know?
It's modern day.
Lenny.
Yes.
Every poet is born from the seed of a poet, because there's something planted whenever you read something.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah,
Uncle Jimmy, maybe, but you are in your own right a poet who is giving birth to other poets. You are mothering other poets. And I am telling you, at some point, your books, your psalms are going to be put into a rap, because that is the way it'll be birthed to others who say, this is the only way I can tell my truth and have people listen to me, which was what hip hop and rap was.
Yeah.
To that point.
Yeah, no.
So, yes, you are mothering a movement just as Uncle Jimmy did. Just, you are. And you have made this little cholita sit up and listen. You have made me say, I don't, like Sherry was saying, you can stand up and speak your truth, even if nobody else understands it, even if nobody wants to hear it, even if everybody says, you don't know what you're talking about, or no, you're being hysterical, you're being overreactive, you're being
histrionic,
you're being you're trying to create anarchy, you're creating problems where there aren't any. You are opening windows.
Yeah.
I have followed you for a couple of years now. You are opening windows with each growth spurt that you have. And I say that as a little viejita mama. You see the growth spurts. I see the growth spurts every time you post something, whenever you publish something. In all of, you need to become a model, because I've seen the pictures too.
And right? Now let me get back to this.
No, Sherry. No, but what I'm trying to say is, everything that you put out there unapologetically with the audacity to be authentic, you are writing psalms. You are developing your own portion of the Bible for others to read and follow, which is what we do, right?
Yeah,
if we have something to proclaim.
No, I mean, that's 100%. Like, where are the songs? In fact, let me
okay, go.
Actually, I want to interject before you get going. I am just playing the devil's advocate, which I often do on this show. I lived in Florida for 30 years, so I know a lot of people who are racist but are in denial about it. So one of the things that I would imagine that would be said was, how could you ever have found these verses in hip hop and rap that is so derogatory against women. It's gang ridden.
Oh yeah.
Those types of things.
Oh yeah.
So before you get started on this, can you answer that question?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. That's a big part of the book, right? How do we wrestle with, or how do I wrestle with material that's important to who I am historically, culturally, and speaks to who I am, but the material itself is often full of patriarchy, full of rape culture, full of capitalism, full of these other things. But so is the Bible.
Oh yes.
But people study that.
Right?
There's genocide.
Oh my God, Lenny,
there's
I love
murder.
That. Yes.
There's
Take
adultery.
my 2 daughters and rape them. Don't rape
Right.
people here.
Right.
Take my daughters and rape them. Yes.
Right. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. And so often what the materials that scriptural scholars apply hermeneutic to, like I applied some of this stuff to and then wrote poetry about, are dealing with, particularly queer scholars like myself or trans scholars like myself. They're dealing with materials that are often damaging to them or have been damaging to them, but yet it still deserves the same focus and the same thing. And if we're going to say what are the cries of a particular people, what speaks to God, it can't always be just the few letters we got that some dude sent to a church and a bunch of
2,000 years ago,
a bunch of histiographs, like an auto histiographs written in first century style that mostly focused on someone's death that we decided on 4 of. Yeah. If that is the end of God's or the divine's message on this earth, why are we in a lot of trouble?
Right?
May God be speaking through many beings, many people, many traditions all over the world, if there is a God to be had anymore in this troubled world, right? Yeah. And so it's also a cry to that, right? Like what is holy, what can be sacred. But I do wrestle with the fact that this material is damaging with me. I don't duck that. And there's plenty of points in the book where you'll say where I don't duck the issues. I don't duck the things the artists have done. I don't duck the things that maybe the lyrics may perpetuate. And you know what I mean? And I don't duck some of the darker sides of any culture or shadow sides of any culture, right? That stuff's everywhere. And so,
you can't have any group without having the degenerate a part of that group. I mean, it goes from offices to churches to schools to clubs. There's always that one.
But there's brokenness, right? And part of humanity's experience is that, it takes a long time to really not be okay with, but realize one of the realities of this world. What's so terrible about this world sometimes is that really terrible people create beautiful things, and sometimes really beautiful people do terrible things. And sometimes, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And when we try to make sense of it in these ways, and morality codes, no, that's not what art is always going to be subversive. Art is always supposed to be, in my opinion, all about absolute divergence.
Yeah, it's shocking. It's supposed to get you out of your head in all aspects of art. It's supposed to make you think.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna read a little bit more of this.
Read, please.
Is that cool?
Please.
Cool. So, what is truth? These are the words that soothed Pontius Pilate in his murder of Jesus of Nazareth, a murder that gathered priests, statesmen, and skilled workers together to kill a possible God because it might affect the state. I don't write this to you as an organizer, although I've done that work. I don't write this to you as a priest, although as of this writing, I'm still an ordained minister in a historically white mainline Christian denomination. I've done public work resisting the state and its men, but I don't write this with any sort of politico in mind other than the one developed by this country, this civilization. Do things feel civil to you? I write this a little over 2 years after the death of George Floyd. White America has decided 2 years of solidarity is enough. They have moved on. White abolitionist partners found reason to leave their trauma-bonded partnership. Corporations and churches, one and the same if you ask me, have changed their messaging. All of them VPs of diversity and decolonization quit or were gaslit out of their positions. The true history of enslaved peoples and our descendants here in America has been disputed, policed, destroyed, and written by our oppressors. Psalms of My People is a poetic liberation narrative history of Black America as told by our prophets, hip-hop artists. Psalms of My People is an attempt to create a Black sacred cultural artifact a thing that cats can pass from pod to pod, from intake to West Block, from hallway to hallway, to get into the hands of someone who heard about it from their friend. An item full of so much shade, while still speaking to the current moment of Black liberation by reframing hip-hop as a deep cry from the Black collective consciousness as a map to the entire movement. Hip-hop and some of its history will be the lens through which we take this journey. Hip-hop has its own power analysis, just like the Pentateuch, the New Testament, and everything that the Intertestaments and Psalms 82:6 to Revelations 1:14 have to say. That any theologian worth their salt has to take seriously in light of James Cone's work and the events of the last few years. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to have anything left in a tank, any more tears, shouts, words, lyrics, or love for my people. You see, that's what I think the adversary's been up to for the last 10 years. The adversary, of course, is called white supremacy, but we know it by older names: Babylon, Leviathan, Rome, Empire, Civilization. If you ask John Africa in my neighborhood as a kid, we watched it rise and fall so many times, we can't imagine the world without having to coil our way through it. And the last 10 years has been fully unmasked at the expense of Black America's psyche, this never-ending project of redeeming our lost white brothers. In this age, we rightly and truly name it: microaggressions, generational redlining, ahistorical history books, the entire system of policing, internalized oppression, Christo-fascism, patriarchy, disproportionate use of force, entire small-town budgets built on harassing and arresting our communities, food apartheid, educational apartheid, a prison industrial complex working in tandem with a political elite that's abandoned us. It is ontology embedded in our language with black-hearted intent. It is disaster capitalism, colonization, extermination, chattel slavery, an economic system built on human beings as capital. But doesn't white supremacy seem like more than that? Doesn't the last 10 years feel like more than that? I name it a supernatural and sentient evil that I believe most of the time white people themselves aren't even aware of. That white supremacy manifests itself in the very way they conceive to construct their communities, worlds, the very reality, a subtle form of matter like quicksilver of alchemists of old. And Mercury must have fascinated the alchemists. The way it moves about in water strangely clumps together and changes shape, and if you put your finger on it, it will kill you. It's an almost mesmerizing color that glints off the light. The last 10 years in America have been like Mercury for Black people.
Wow.
I just want you to keep reading.
I want to read a poem and answer some questions. We'll get to a poem.
I just want to point out that your book, you published your book, and what is it? The 50th anniversary of 2023.
It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and like this
So-
is the year in January, really kind of officially marks it's been 50 years of hip hop. And so that's the other thing, is that it is this 50-year culture that is a result of rhythm and blues culture, that is a result of old blues culture, that is a result of, gospel culture, of R&B culture, of soul culture, of country music. And like this, this child of the Americas, hip hop is born, right? And so it's a truly American thing.
Let me just state for the record that hip hop has lasted more than 100 times longer than the Confederacy did.
Yeah, that's always one of my favorite things to point out. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to point out. I have continuously been playing Fortnite longer, 5 times longer than the Confederacy lasted. So stick that in your fucking stars and bars.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's how it is, right? And it's so hip hop's so ubiquitous, right? It's become, Paul Gilroy famously talks about this, and I didn't want to get too academic in the book, so I skipped all that, right? But Paul Gilroy in The Black Atlantic talks about how music really is the proof of the diasporic culture, this cross-Atlantic culture of Black peoples, of the diaspora, of African people of the diasporas, or what I say in some of my work, or is Black peoples of the Americas. And so it's this proof that everywhere you go, we express ourselves in certain ways, and you can usually tell through our music. and the way we do storytelling, and the way we do rhythm, and the way that we do dance. And so, that's Paul Gilroy's dissertation. I'm trying to get a PhD proving that it's actually Black esotericism, or so-called occultism, so-called mysticism, so-called whatever you want to call it, that thing that you feel when you go to the Black church, that's got nothing to do with the Bible. That's something that's inherent in the people and in the culture. And it's expressed in many different ways, right? But Gilroy's right that music is like a way you can map that, right? And so that's what I try to do.
Calling forth the spirits of your ancestors, and your ancestors come and dance in the circle with you and tell the stories with you. Exactly. And the voices mix and the voices lift, and everybody understands. Everybody. Let me back off before I cross into a place that is not mine, because I was going to say everybody within the Black community understands the message. They get the message. But I don't want to go into some place that's not mine.
Right.
I feel that when I go home and I listen to the rancheras and the Mexican rancheras, there's the familiarity that goes back years and years.
I was listening to ranchera music this morning. Are you kidding me?
Were you?
Yes.
My brother.
We need to talk more. We need to talk more. Oh, give me a dark bar with 5 old men, really sad ranchera music.
Yes.
A terrible soap opera going.
The cry in the voice, right? The cry. Yes. The cry in the voice, because you got to hold that note. And it is the same communication that the Black church from the enslavement had to do to survive.
Yeah.
It is a survival aspect.
Music as a means to transcend severe oppression. You know what I mean? And this is a thing that I think goes beyond us, right? We know, like there's one point where I talk about... I got this one, right? I write one about Biggie Smalls, right? And I write about Juicy, the song Juicy. And I talk about how, like, it's the song that every white person knew when they first bought this book. But they didn't know it was called Juicy.
I resemble that remark.
Right. But if I said it was all a dream, I used to read Word Up magazine, you know exactly what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So you know the verse of this song, right, from Biggie, but you don't know that it's called Juicy. You don't really know like where it's placed in like his discography. You don't know like where that really comes in like hip hop music, like how that was like just so wild that this dude who could rhyme so well, had so many bars, was not doing like this sort of spoon-fed intellectual kind of like holdover from the 70s and the Lost Poets, and we got to like uplift our people and give them good information. Biggie was like, what if I just report about what's happening, what the fuck's happening out front of my crib? Yeah. And that shit's not cool. Yeah. Right? That like what's happening out front's not cool though, my man. Like I understand that we're descended from kings and queens, right? I think Biggie kind of allowed some of us to say some of us was janitors too over there or something, man. So we weren't all kings and queens. Some of us was living real life, bro. Like written in real life, like you're hungry and you ain't got no money for sneakers and you don't know what to do because no one will give you a job. You know what I'm saying? And you're living in some fucking neighborhood where you can walk outside and just get slammed against the fucking wall for no fucking reason. And you're just trying to get to school every day. And everyone's like, don't sell drugs. Don't get involved in any bullshit. But you're so fucking tired of being broke. You're so tired of walking to school with lunch money that's food stamps and getting clowned in front of 70 kids. And you've had it. So what do you do in a world like that, right? And so Biggie Smalls speaks to this group of kids who were left behind in the early 90s and were called super predators by the president's wife. You know what I mean? Broken window policies were used all across America. Black men were weaponized against us. We had a rapist, Bill Cosby, a rapist walking around and telling everyone to pull up our pants.
Yeah. Thank you.
Us pulling up our pants with a problem. So Biggie is really important to this point in hip hop culture that's like, hey, but I'm still real. I don't give a fuck what you say about me. I exist. And if you ever been to Bed-Stuy, especially Bed-Stuy in the 90s, it is not Bed-Stuy how it is now. Shout out to Nicole. Bed-Stuy alive. I will never say do or die. That's my cousin. Sorry. She's been living there a long time. But, Bed-Stuy alive. But, the sty's messed up. And so, I don't know. I get passionate about
the
this
need,
stuff.
though, for the king and queen mentality, because so much of our culture, including religion, especially evangelicalism in America, berates, destroys the Black community and says that you must be submissive. So the need for that hip hop and that music to come in and say, you are a king, you are a queen,
exactly,
was definitely needed to be able to empower the cultures of cultures of color.
Now, Sherry, you think I don't talk about Black divinity in here? Have you met me?
Of course you do. Of course you do. I just wanted to throw that in there, that the king and queen isn't all that.
How different from spinning vinyl? How different is it from flipping tables in a temple? Honestly.
I mean, it just depends on. I mean, if we talk about the birth of hip hop,
yes,
about how that happened in the Bronx,
yes,
and we talk about how those parties were just about getting kids off the streets and giving them a safe place to be, and give them, the first parties were about that. The first MCs, they didn't have long rhymes. They said stuff like $5 in the back donation. Yo, give it up for the DJ. That's all they said.
Okay, so do we need to get into an East Coast, West Coast war?
But I'm saying, but that's how it was. The people are like, yo, get that dude off the mic. I want to hear the DJ do the merry-go-round again, which is the part where the two breaks can go forever off the two records.
Yes.
I want to hear the merry-go-round. And so, there's those vibes, right, of community resistance. You got to understand what's happening in the Bronx is all the landowners are burning down all the old apartment buildings because they've lost their real estate value to collect on the insurance. Black families are being burned out of their homes every other week. There's nowhere to hang out, and they're all being forced into NYCHA housing. And so hip hop sort of birthed out of this a lot of Caribbean folks who are already used to selectas and other like DJ formats from Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and they're all crammed into
let me stop you there,
and,
because my California heritage is like getting all upset. What about LA? Are we into an East Coast, West Coast war?
No. The first, I will tell you the first poem. The first poem's about NWA.
Okay.
The first poem.
Okay.
The first poem. And the first poem is entitled FTP 1312.
Okay.
So,
you want to read it?
I was going to read something a little bit lighter.
Okay. Okay. You do you, boo.
I mean, if you want the West Coast,
hear it. I want to hear it.
You want to hear the NWA?
Is that okay?
Yeah, this is the poem.
I do.
All right, so I always start with like a quote from the song that I'm talking about, and then I get into it. All right, so chapter 2, FTP 1312. Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. Young nigga got it bad because I'm brown. And not the other color, so police think they have the authority to kill a minority. NWA, fuck the police. The first time I heard those words waft out of an Oldsmobile in West Philly, they were offensive. Offensive to the police, to the state, to my East Coast hip-hop sensibility. Firmly planted in fertile dark brown soil of dreadlocks and koofies. And at the moment, I was spoon-fed intellectual bars inlaid with historical facts about our people. Our history, our sacredness, hinted at on Saturday afternoon in the summertime. NWA broke onto the scene by embodying the role of the villain, which is how America loves to portray us. This is how America loved us. America wouldn't give us superheroes. Black people deserved our own supervillains. Our heroes have been taken from us. Maybe only villains of whiteness can survive this place. Villains armed with subversiveness dripped off them like Jerry curl juice with a little less homophobia, please. Villains have foibles and brokenness after all, like you, like me. America ordered super predators with a side of bass. They got the advent of Afeni's Panther King, and the uprisings in LA had a soundtrack. White America got their super villains. We got redemption, salvation, and a few armed enforcers of capitalism tied up in trunks of cars as visuals across our young, divine, impressionable minds and souls. Wearing this identity as a banner of war, NWA dared anyone to do battle with them. A mask we saw several of them drop years later, first for mainstream appeal, then later to become your Hotep uncle at the barbecue. But in this critical moment for the movement, they were exactly who they were born to be, using the tools that were before them. All sacred revolutions start in this way or continue, depending on your perspective. It begins when we each, in our own way, across time and space, step up for the liberation of humanity. This is the connection. This is the connective tissue from Golgotha to LA, Birmingham to Oshogobo. It is why thousands died in the muck and the mire of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, why Mother Jones set foot on the road in the first place. It is the great game of freedom and rending a world of evolutionary peace. It is one critical moment, making love to another critical moment across the expanse of history. Thus, it becomes a movement. NWA artfully transmitted a visceral experience, gripping the nation by its throat and forcing it to bear witness to the experience of Black peoples in this country in real time. Straight Out Compton was and remains a report from the neo-plantation that this country had become. 2 years later, after being banned and having their albums burned in the streets, they were interviewed standing in the waste and decay of white supremacy. Eazy-E and MC Ren gave an interview, but more specifically, they prophesized into the future. White woman interviewer breathlessly. What's taking place right now? MC Ren. The Rodney King trial, the verdicts, everybody got to do what they got to do to get justice out here. On the screen, an image flashes of a car driving past screaming, fuck the police. Eazy-E. I think somebody should come out with a song called Fuck the Police. White woman interviewer sardonically. Someone did do that 2 years ago. You did. Before this ever happened. Eazy-E prophetically. That's because we foreseen the future. A lot of people didn't like the song. Now they see. The vision they foretold, we have now endured. Videotape state violence against the Black body after Black body. So many Black bodies. The fires rose in LA from April 29th until May 4th, 1992, but they spread to Ferguson, Missouri, Baltimore, Maryland, Portland, Oregon, and everywhere the cries of the oppressed were caught on camera. But 2 years before the first shot was fired in the war, we still fight to this day. Before anyone would know the name Rodney King, before LA would be used as a dog whistle by the bloated, pasty oppressor from Arkansas, before they killed Trayvon and after Emmett, prophets rose in Compton. What would I say of my generation? We were the Elijahs of our time. Like Elijah, an entire generation of poor and dispossessed of Black youth had just begun climbing the mountain that is oppression in America. We waited for a distant God to pass by. A great wind screeched past us. It blamed us for not having fathers, our absent fathers who were held captive by that same wind, our very present fathers who were stripped of their humanity. God was not in the wind. Then there was an earthquake and shook the foundations of this empire. And when it was done, history had crumbled. We were told the wreckage of murdered leaders, teachers, prophets, and communities left behind in the wake of whiteness's last generational bloodletting were customary. That this was the path. In fact, we were told this was the best it had ever been. God was not in the earthquake. But unlike in Elijah's story, first came the silence, then the fires. The fires of April 26, 1992. In the silence, the ancestors have been preparing new warriors of thought, of tongue and thought. In the silence, in the feeling of having your new sneaks jacked up by a cop who jumps out at you from an unmarked van, the indignity is not that he slams your face on the wall, scars fade and scrapes heal, but the new white sneaks are gold. The final degradation is going to school later, everyone making fun of the scuff mark on your new kicks, or remembering how long your mom saved up to buy them. In the silence, God spoke and God said, fuck the police. Ole Damari raised up niggas with attitudes. You got an attitude, boy? Yes, officer. As a matter of fact, I do. The creator, she raised up black brim warriors with holy amulets infused with the power of millions of the incarcerated, made a dookie change and Jerry curl drip. In the silence, they pronounced a judgment on America, which they supposed that by giving white people a Monday off in January, they had solved 400 years of oppression. These warriors spoke to the truth that was plain to any black person in this land. Our murders were the holy vestments America bore on its highest holy days. Our blood had become its desperate meal. Our fates were now tied to this terminal case of empire. Fuck the police and their rough rides. Fuck the police and the way they stole your personhood on the way to school. Fuck the police because God had a Jerry curl, one hell of a producer, and a new anthem. By the time we saw Rodney King beaten for sport, by the time America realized the hard what they had allowed to happen, how we, their unwanted and unasked for siblings, were treated, by the time the verdict came, the one we had already knew the result of, by the time the fires rose, we had our cry. Fuck the police.
Tell me how that's not biblical.
I have goosebumps. Did you do an audible on this?
I did. I just finished recording it, and I think better on that chapter.
This is a book I want to hear you read. I don't want to. I have goosebumps. Wow.
I think
a little side note. When my son was little, I called him BWA.
Yeah.
Maybe with attitude. Totally fit.
That was
phenomenal.
Biblical. That was biblical.
Yeah.
And that echoed everything that is written before, that is prophesied before, that is here, that is coming, that came, that went, and is yet to come. So I am still fangirling.
I was gonna say,
like Sherry said, I'm crying because of the lyrical, I was gonna say lyrical genius, but
I agree.
It is. It is. There is a poetic artistry, and that sounds like a biblical play that needs to go on Broadway. And I'm not blowing smoke up your shorts. What I'm saying is that sometimes things need to be amplified to a greater audience to make people uncomfortable, to shock them, to have them clutch pearls and bring hankies up to their noses and fan themselves.
I hope this book transgresses all kinds of shit. Yes.
It is. I've read your books, and I think that is a masterpiece. And it just hearing, like she said, just hearing you read that with the passion and with the truth and with the blood and with the tears behind it and in front of it, because it's not going to end. It's not going to end.
No.
We are still in a Holy Saturday, right? We haven't had Resurrection Sunday, or you haven't had Resurrection Sunday. Your people haven't had Resurrection Sunday. You have been in Holy Saturday for how long now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're all in the state of Holy Saturday. I mean, and right now, the people of Gaza, right? I mean, let's talk about Holy Saturday. Bethlehem canceled Christmas. Why would Bethlehem cancel Christmas? Because their people are being genocided right now. No matter where you stand, a democracy has to act like a democracy within the rules of the Geneva Convention. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Act within the rules of the Geneva Convention. Act within the reasonable means of war. Treat people and civilians the way civilians have been historically treated by nation states like the state of Israel says it is. Act the way you say you're going to be. That's it. That's all I would ask. That's all I think anyone can ask, right? So here we are. The birthplace of Christ cancels Christmas, right? To get the world to pay attention. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are in Holy Saturday. A lot of people don't even think hope can be born into the world right now, right? Including the people of Bethlehem. I mean, and no, we don't expect, a democracy does not expect their enemy to act within the rules of the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
That's the point of democracy.
I cannot
That's
think.
the point of a republic.
I cannot think of any country that has, honestly, in any time of war. There has never been a country.
We're supposed to be better. And I would hold us to the same I would hold any nation to that standard. The standard of can we have proportional response?
Well, and I'm not turning away if anyone's looking at me, but I wrote something yesterday because I was just so fucking over it all. And I wrote, we will never kill our way out of terrorism. And I think this definitely, especially since you brought up Rodney King, White supremacy has said, beat the black person down, and then calls the black people lazy. It's just pathetic bullshit. But
Yeah.
so I wrote, we will never kill our way out of terrorism. The more people who are killed, the more terrorists are bred. Terrorists are fueled by fear and the need for personal power. They feel disenfranchised and that their place in the world is threatened. This applies to white and brown people. Terrorism knows no race, just fear. For every civilian killed, 5 rise up to stop it from happening again. The real problem is defining who the terrorist is. For us, it was bin Laden. For bin Laden, it was us. For Israel, it's Hamas. For Hamas, it is Israel. Everyone screaming, we are the victims, only leads to thousands of more victims. Peace will only be achieved through honor, honoring everyone's right to exist, and honoring their place on this planet to live. Loving our neighbors is the only way to stop terrorism at home and abroad. Do not let the warmongers and those in extreme power tell you otherwise. Unity, honor, and love is the only way to stop terrorism for us and the terrorists.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, talk about, Hamas is not the Palestinian people. And in fact, 50% of the Palestinian people who are of voting age now could not vote. There hasn't been an election in 20 years. 50% of the Palestinian people are 18 years old. That means the last election was before they were born. So to blame them for the faults of their government is insane. And that's one arm of the government. That's not the Palestinian people. And I wish more people understood that.
The people that they cannot separate the government from the people is something that I can't even comprehend. I've said dozens of times on this show, I should have her name written down because I owe her all the credit in the world. But the woman who said we're only looking for equality, not revenge.
Yeah.
Because the black people have been terrorized in this country for 400 years.
Well, she said white people better count their lucky stars. We're only looking for equality, not revenge.
Yeah. And when you are terrorized, when you have all of those things, you want to lash out. I always say, even a puppy will bite you if backed into a corner.
Oh, yeah.
So the degradation involved with your...
Can you imagine if every tribe member and every member who stands in the place of the tribes that were wiped out and every enslaved descendant, if they stood up and rose against and took revenge for the sins of their fathers, where would we be?
Oh my God, destroyed.
Well, I mean, that's the lucky thing, I think. I and that's what I mean when I talk about Israel, right?
Right.
Over and over again, Black liberation movements have chosen paths that many people have not agreed with, but they've always been paths of liberation with wideness enough for even the oppressor to fit in.
Yeah.
Right? There was never there's never been a state where they're like, we're starting a black ethno state. Mm-hmm. There's never been a state where we're a black state and white people are going to be the lower class. That's never happened. Mm-mm. That might have, not since we've been using words like white, black, Latino, or anything like that. Now there were kingdoms from Africa that conquered whole parts of the world, Oh, yeah. There are kingdoms from other places that did that throughout history. But, in our current way, we think about these things, right? What we call a state, what we call a society. Those societies don't exist, and the creation of them are fringe groups at best. There's never been a large popular movement for vengeance or destruction of the republic. There's been most people saying, I would just like my place in it.
Exactly.
And maybe a bit more.
And someone in power saying no.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's so problematic and it's so far back. I mean, I was thinking just the other day about, thank God I am not judged by my father. I thank God that I have the ability to be able to say, look, I'm different. I learned from his mistakes. I wanted to be the exact opposite of him.
Yeah.
But so many people, I mean, I can say that all I want. Someone's going to steal your father.
But
So
I get the hope of Israel as someone who, as a person, like I have this Marcus Garvey flag because I'm a person who believes they have no land. I get the idea of being a diasporic people who want the hope of safety of a homeland. I also get that there were people who were living there when they came. And so these two things have to be reconciled.
Yeah.
Right. And we cannot pretend that one is impossible without the other.
Exactly.
This is not true, right? We can hold both these truths together and try to forge something together. And as someone from a diasporic people spread out throughout the world through incredibly terrible means, you know, I always explain chattel slavery as imagine the Holocaust if the goal was to keep you alive and make you breed. Mm-hmm. Imagine a system that did the opposite because you were capital. And that happened to us for hundreds of years, and we deserve a homeland, and there have been terrible attempts to try. But I would never live in a homeland that was taken from other people.
And yet we do.
Right. I have no choice. I was brought here as cargo.
Yeah.
This was not my culture or my people's intention, and not that long ago. Just my great. You know, we've only been here since 6 years before the Civil War.
Wow.
Right? And then he picked up a rifle as soon as he saw a chance to fought for his freedom. We have no long history here. We were brought here. We got started, you know, people say, well, go back. Okay, go where?
Yeah.
You took all that, dude. You know?
Well, and, you know, in my growing, Bill Maher actually said that back in the 90s on his Politically Incorrect show. And I was sitting with my Black husband at the time, and we both went, yeah, which is insane, right?
Right.
But
I love this country, but not for the reasons other people.
Yeah, exactly. But to say that, you know, you were forced over here, then you should be honored for the sacrifice.
Oh, yes.
You should be honored for the work that was done that built this fucking country while white people sat on their fat asses and just yelled at orders. You should not be looked at as an invader, but an investor. Yeah. And while there is constant supremacy and the need for power, both on actually everywhere, all of our governments want that power that is just divisive and destructive and keeps the others down. So to claim that power again, to say, no, you guys brought me here, I am here, kind of like I say with LA, I'm here now, damn it. But to ask for ownership of that should never be too much, should never be taken as, oh, you know, well, oh God, my mind just went blank.
Your blood
giving
is
your money, giving your money.
ground.
What is it when, excuse me, reparations. That's the word I was looking for. Well, you know, oh, they just want reparations. No, bitch, we built this country. Not me, I'm sorry. But you built it, you know, those type of things. To have that honor that we need to establish that because of that, we will never be great. As long as we are in this all white mighty bullshit, we will continue to be subpar. There's just no other way around it.
And we've paid reparations in this country, and the country did fine. We paid white slave owners back for their lost property. Each and every one of them. The U.S. government did.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And America was fine. It kept going.
Yeah, no.
It's just that those assets didn't birth multiple assets for free.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, and now they want women, they're actually saying that women have to have kids because they need the workforce. So it's no one is immune from the patriarchy. No one is immune from white supremacy. No one is immune from the divisive power and greed that screws all of the marginalized people, including every one of us on this chart.
Oh, we all.
And this is why that book needs to be broadcast. From everywhere to everywhere.
Okay, we got 5 minutes. You want any? You got a quick one?
Yeah, I just want to say that the book comes out January 9th. You can buy it anywhere. I'm hoping to be able to announce a local San Diego book launch event. I just went and talked to a super cool bookstore. Hopefully, maybe they're even watching. That'd be cool. And but I don't want to blow up their spot if they can't do it. But I'd actually I'd like to read a little bit from the afterword, if that's cool.
Sure.
Is that cool?
That's cool.
Cool. Afterword, Pennymoo Theosis. I've attempted in my time as a writer to bring you real-time reporting from my inner landscape. I have never once pretended that the interior universe of my heart was not full of ideas, some of them ugly, raw, and reaching for life, desperately trying to germinate in my mind. I believe in this way I am honest. Truly, I hope I have transgressed your purity, taken away your sense of safety, and added warts to the face of not just the church, but also this wicked land. I hope that I have brought you from within the murky and often glitter-filled depths of those strange interior environs, some of what I see as beauty, hope, joy, and love as I understand her. I knew her before Christ, and I'm so grateful she never let me go. In the final analysis, the Jesus I once knew is no more. We need new stories, new myths, and new scripture. The same Jesus, I believe, fervently would drag out into this world for us liberation, a new expansive realm of kinship and joy. That Jesus is long dead in the American consciousness. I now believe the church to be an enemy of that particular Jesus' very resurrection. America just wails, "What would you have of me, child of the Most High?" And the radical Jesus who came from outside history into history looks sadly back. I wish him better luck getting through to the people in the next world his consciousness visits. Being an anointed one seems like a shit gig. I honestly feel bad for a Jesus who fills oppressed sexual and gender minorities, queer trans folk, full of terror. I was a pastor. Now when I hear someone just sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ to a stranger on the street, I want to fucking throw up. That message is a mockery of what Jesus preached, taught, or was.
Yeah.
Being a pastor was a shit gig, to be honest. The church is full of really good people, and institutions make sure to keep those people near its most vital organs. Lest we lash out, lest we cut our ties to it, lest we slay the dragon, the serpent that waits on the edge of night. The current state of the American mainline church, and in particular liberal thought and liberal arch staunch defenders, the sacred keeper of the post-Reformation knowledge, is a funhouse mirror of itself. It's an anathema even to the scraps of truth the church has allowed to dribble over the years, century, 2 millennia. Haven't we given the church enough time? Every age the church swears to repent of its sins, and at the dawn of this century, like every century before since its birth, it now sees how it's literally destroying the world as we know it. Again, I am unsure of the effect of my movement work or its long-term impact. If my ancestors are right, this is all just a cycle of stories playing out over and over again, then what is politics? Won't nature take its course? Are we just another tiny voice on the step on the road to Pax Americana? I tire of the cycle of America's grievous wounds. I tire of pouring out poetry, art, theology, ontology, and truth on her already parched and rather ugly throat. I tire of preaching to either those who know and refuse to get up or those who have not the skills to listen. I go on from there, but we're out of time.
So when I started writing my book, I read somewhere that books are forever. And hundreds of years from now, someone could come across your book and their life could be changed. So when you say, I don't know if I'm going to change anything, I don't buy that for a second, because your book is forever and it is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Lenny, this has been fantastic. Any final words, and where can people find you?
I'm at Lenny A. Duncan on everything, all the socials. I just don't do Twitter anymore because fuck fascists. I don't care their
I almost put that in your bio. Fuck Twitter.
Yeah, fuck Twitter. So I don't give a fuck. I don't care how I lost 10. That was where I had the most followers. I lost all my followers right before the book, and I was like, fuck this dude.
Yeah.
But Lenny A. Duncan on everything. LennyDuncan.com. If you hit me up, I always hit you back. And Broadly Books always has my books posted, and you can get them, in IndieBound, so you can buy them through your local shop. You can pre-order it anywhere. You can even get it at a bunch of places I'm boycotting, so don't buy it at Target. Don't buy it at. There's a bunch of places you shouldn't buy it. I'll release a list. I don't care anymore if they don't care.
Send me a list. I'll put it on the
Yeah. But go to IndieBound, buy it from your local shop, buy it from Broadleaf. You know what I mean? Buy it where you feel good, but it's everywhere.
Thank you so very much for joining us tonight. I love having you here. Anna, thank you so much for popping in. Do you have anything final to say?
I do.
Okay.
My dearest Lenny, the dandelions that grow up in the green of the lawns, the green of the grass, that some say are weeds, some say are the magic herbs that we make teas with to replenish our bodies, to cure us, to feed us, to nourish us. Yet even in their cycles, birds carry their seeds. They fall to the ground. Children pick them up and blow them and make wishes, and they're carried along Ruach, the breath of the divine, and they settle and they fall and they grow. And the green sprouts up and the yellow bursts forth, and once again, they are both weeds and they are the teas and the elixirs that cure us. You, my friend, are an elixir that cures us. And your little seeds will be carried along the breath of God, perpetual, for perpetual eon of time. Never, ever, ever discount the wisdom and the prophecies that you put forth.
God, Anna, I'm not even Lenny, and I have tears. Thank you.
I needed to believe in God, especially after the Episcopal Church said no. You need to find somebody that'll accept you. And then I read your book, and I said, I don't need anybody to accept me. God already has. So fuck yeah, hell yeah, let me follow Lenny.
Well, I appreciate hearing that story.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm glad my book brought you comfort during that time.
All of them. In January, I pre-ordered yours. I will be out in California at Pacific Lutheran in January, mid-January. I don't know where you are, and I don't know if I'll find you, but I'm going to carry my happy little book with me, The Songs of My People.
Are you doing classes there?
Yes, for a week.
Okay. Well, if you're going to school there in general, you can cross-register for my course in the spring, A People's History of Magic. I'm the teacher.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and close the show.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
I will see you backstage. Don't go anywhere.
I won't.
I have a class I got to sign into.
Okay.
Thank you, Lenny.
Thank
you, Anna.
Bye.
Oh, another great show. I'm at a loss for words right now. That was so beautiful, so enlightening, so empowering. I love learning things from fantastic people. If you like the show, share it and subscribe. Thank you all so very much. Next week's show, we are discussing the death penalty. Abraham Bonowitz, the executive director and co-founder of deathpenaltyaction.org, will be here with Paula Skilcorn, an author and a former journalist who did a story on a death row inmate and ended up marrying him. It's going to be another fantastic show. Thank you so very much for joining us and welcoming us into your homes. Have a wonderful week. And like always, walk in love. Bye.